Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborne. So glad you can join us today as we will be tasting through 4 wines from Avaline. And of course, we'll have the privilege of talking to the lovely ladies behind the wine, Katherine Power and Cameron Diaz. Also, we're going to be getting an education on how to make a world-class charcuterie board. So please get ready for some great tasting and snacking. I want to thank everyone who submitted some questions for this tasting, some great ones. We're going to try to incorporate as many as we can into the tasting. Of course, if you bought this wine, I was going to say trio, but it's four wines from Wine.com ahead of time. Wonderful. Please go ahead, get those open, get them into some glassware to get ready. If you don't have the wines, I guarantee you're still going to love this conversation. And at the end, you will want to run out and purchase these wines. Still available on Wine.com, either as a set or individually. The wines that we are tasting in order are the Avaline White Blend, the Avaline Sparkling, the Avaline Rosé, and we'll finish off with the Avaline Red Blend. So now let's introduce our guests. Here to speak with us are actress and author Cameron Diaz and entrepreneur and business owner Katherine Power, and I guess we can also say co-founders of Avaline Wine.
Hi there. Hi, Gwendolyn.
Welcome, ladies. So great to have you here and good to see you both again. Congratulations on Avaline's a year old.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be back.
Yeah, that's great. So, and last time we spoke, we were only tasting 2 wines, the white and rosé, and now we're presented with the opportunity to taste the 4 wines. So obviously Avaline is growing, and I'm excited to kind of talk about this journey with you both. And of course, for those of you joining in at home, please feel free to start sipping on some wine because we are going to kind of dive into talking a little bit about the story first. So if you're thirsty, go ahead. And then obviously, as you can see, we're also going to be talking great charcuterie boards and how to pair them. So to get started, Cameron and Katherine, we'll kind of go back to the beginning for those who might not know. Before you became business partners, you were friends. So maybe give us a little background of that connection, how you met and knew each other, and then kind of evolving into that aha moment of that inspiration and calling to kind of get into wine.
Sure. Well, Cameron and I are friends. We, met through Cameron's sister-in-law, who's been one of my best friends for the last, 20 years. And I think we were always around each other at, family gatherings and holidays, and really, just gravitated toward one another. We're both homebodies, and we love, entertaining and drinking wine. And honestly, Avaline really started just out of this personal passion that we had. We were drinking wine one day, and we were talking about the fact that everything in our life has gotten a little bit healthier, right? We've traded our groceries for organic. We've, traded our household products for non-toxic, and we love our wine, and we're drinking so much wine. And we just started to question, what was in the bottle.
Yeah, and we realized that with that question, we found that there was not really an answer that was very transparent. It's not like there's any ingredient labels or that are on the bottles. It's not required, and a lot of producers just don't do it. It's not there. So when we decided to find, start to drink wines that sort of aligned with our values, wanting to have wine that was made with organically grown grapes and none of the extra added ingredients that can be added to wine with sort of, without any disclosure, we couldn't find those wines. They weren't on we couldn't find them on the shelves. So yeah. Avaline was really about transparency of what was in the bottle and being able to make it available wherever we shopped, and so wherever anyone else shopped. And we wanted it to be, sort of the standard for clean wine.
Yeah. And it's kind of fascinating that wine is that one product that doesn't require ingredients.
Yeah.
It's TTB regulated, not FDA. So that's the distinction there. So we took it upon ourselves to really bring that forward facing on our labels. If you look at our labels, we have all, sort of pertinent information of what's not in the wine, which is the baseline is no artificial colors, sugars, or concentrates. So
Yeah.
Yes, does exist in commercial winemaking. And that's one of the things that we, learned was there are about 73 ingredients that can be added throughout the winemaking process without that disclosure that Cameron's talking about. And, so Avaline is, first and foremost made from organic grapes and really low intervention, no to low additives. And we sought out the best, winemaking partners all across the world who were already creating wine this way, right? So they were growing organically, they were dry farming, and really creating these beautiful, beautiful blends. And we partnered with them to create the Avaline blends. Based on the taste profiles that we knew that we wanted to hit. So what you're drinking today are our 4, different styles.
And I know this was a long process, and you've probably learned a lot about how long it can actually be. So you decided to venture into this. You traveled to Europe to taste and learn and meet winemakers. And I guess you kind of just answered this a little bit, but how did you go about choosing who to work with and kind of that style? Did you meet to go over those kind of parameters, and what exactly were they beyond the organic?
Well, first off, we both wanted wine that we both love to drink. And because we have very different palates, I like a heavier red, she likes a lighter red. I like a drier white, she likes a little sweeter white. We both agreed on the rosé, but we really wanted to find wine that was wine that we both wanted to drink. So meeting our palates in the middle. So we just drank a lot of wine, basically, until we both went, this one's good. And decided that, let's who's the maker? How are they making wine? Do they have the ability to scale up with us? How can we make a partnership work with them? But it was baseline, again, organic farming, minimal intervention, making wines in a way that we didn't, it's nothing we created and we didn't invent it. It's a very traditional way of making wine. Unfortunately, it's just not something that's really celebrated in the way that we have kind of brought it forward to say, hey, let people know people want to know this information. So we went to them directly. We wrote them emails, we called them.
Knocked on doors.
We're like, we're coming to see ya. And they're like, okay. And we're like, no, we're coming to see ya. And we showed up there to the vineyards and had conversations and did tastings and, really made, made connections and felt really great about, how they made wine, how they farmed, that they were at the standard that we wanted to just drink and then to be our wine as well.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm excited to taste the new wines and get your sparkling producers, like one of my favorites already. So, but before we taste the wines, I hope everyone will notice that you have a beautiful board in front of you. And we're going to give us some education on kind of creating this world-class, or you're perfect. Okay, perfect charcuterie board. So just here is a little list for those at home. If you had a chance to get them, great. If not, this is kind of the way we're going to go. But we are also going to talk a little bit about those kind of perfect pairings as we go through each wine. So beautiful board. For each wine, we're going to have a little bit of a charcuterie goodies FYI. So let us start tasting. We're starting today with the white wine. This wine we're having is from Penedès, Spain, which is where a lot of cava is made. And it is a blend of three very typical grapes there, Xarel-lo, Macabeo, and Malvasia. You don't find them many other places, but they're great for there. So tell us a little bit about, and forgive me of my pronunciation, I took French, Can Rafols del Caus.
Yes.
Okay. And this is who you've partnered with to produce this amazing wine. Can you tell us a little bit about their winemaking philosophy?
Yeah, it's a multi-generational farm, and they were one of the first producers to create still wine from the Xarel-lo grape. Cameron and I actually discovered them. We were eating dinner at a really delicious restaurant in Barcelona, and we tasted one of their limited edition wines, and we just like Cameron said, we typically don't agree on white wine. And we took a taste of this Zarello-based wine and just instantly looked at each other and said, oh my God, who made this? We've got to find them. So we were already in Europe taking meetings. We tracked them down, via Instagram, I think is how we ultimately got them to answer us. And we were there 9 a.m. the next morning and got to see the beautiful farm and the winemaking facilities. And it was just a dream, but it's light, it's dry, it's crisp. It has about 11% alcohol, so it's pretty low.
It's so great.
Yeah, it's easy.
I could just have this bottle and not feel terrible the next morning, not feel bad at the end. I mean, and the lack of sugar, it's refreshing to find a bottle with this low of alcohol, but this kind of wonderful acidity and flavor, and it's also refreshing to taste. So
we hear a lot about this wine. It really appeals to a wide array of palates. So the Pinot Grigio drinker, the Sauv Blanc drinker, even the Chardonnay, people that don't like white wine say, I don't like white wine, but I love this wine. It really does have, such great universal appeal, and it's so easy to drink.
It's so delicious, very chilled, very cold. I personally love my white wine over ice, a couple of ice cubes. It doesn't water down, it's a light wine, but it doesn't get watered down easy. The flavor is still very, present. So
yeah,
very,
it is. It's very not pretty like aromatic, super aromatic, but that's kind of one of the beauties of it is it's like something that's just diverse, but versatile is kind of the word I'm looking for.
Yes.
The minerality is so beautiful. It's the terroir, it's just, 40 miles, 30 miles from the Mediterranean coast. There's shells everywhere in the soil.
Limestone.
It's just limestone. It's just, it's beautiful soil. For
very few wines you call salty, but this might be like
it is
nearing there. But yeah, that minerality.
Not in a dry sort of. It's a dry, but it doesn't like
dry your mouth.
Yeah. Doesn't break your palate.
It's salivate, like you salivate because you want more, but it's not a drying.
There's nice citrus to it too.
So this wine in particular, 0 grams of sugar per glass, 103 calories. So,
winning.
That kind of thing. You get a delicious wine.
Great. And so what about the board you've made here? What can you select here that might be a nice pairing for this wine?
So I love a charcuterie board because to me, it's like a treasure hunt. There's all these amazing treasure hunt of flavor. And I love to make little flavor packets. It's almost like making a different little sandwich every time you take a bite, instead of having to make one big sandwich, you get a bunch of little bites of a sandwich. And that's created through the savory and the sweet. And so I really love to have, along with the cheese and the meats, the charcuterie and the cheese. For the white, we've paired it, of course, with the manchego and a chorizo because it's very Spanish. And the manchego has just got that delicious nutty flavor that goes so well with the dry white. And the chorizo has just enough heat. But the fun part about a charcuterie board, I love to add, any kind of dollop that I can add to a cracker or a piece of bread. I love to have a grainy mustard, a cornichon with, the pickle, because who doesn't love a pickle on a sandwich, some sort of nut, an olive. And I always love to have like a little pit bowl next to it. And then any kind of seasonal fresh fruit. We have a clementine here, which is so beautiful during the fall, and the grapes. And I like a high-low situation. So you have like here you have the layers of all the food, and you can kind of just pick from here instead of like trying to get it off the board. Figs, of course, are beautiful during the fall. I mean, what's better than a fall charcuterie board? And just putting those flavors all together in a little bite-sized packet, and then with a little sip of wine, is pretty much one of my favorite things in the world. Like I could eat cheese and charcuterie every night. Like
any meal, just hand it down, any meal.
Yeah. And if you don't have fresh fruit, you can always use a dry fruit. You can use a dry, prunes, grapes, cranberries, raisins, or you can even just do a preserve, have a preserve, honey, having that sweet with the savory always is so beautiful across the palate. And with the wine, it just like breaks it all open. It's so much fun.
That's great. Yeah. A lot of places you can't always get fresh fruit, like figs might be difficult someplace. So the fig preserves are always a great.
You can have any kind of
preserve too.
Yeah, there's just honey. And one of the things that I feel about cheese boards is that everybody's always so awkward around them. Like, how do you get to the cheese or the salami or the charcuterie on the board? I like to put my cheeses a little, like slice them a little bit for your guest. The easiest way to do that is bring your cheese out at least a half an hour before you're going to start your board so you can get them a little bit soft. Being able to slice off those pieces so people can just break it open, always having sort of a little knife that they can easily break it apart as well. And keeping your cheese sort of on the sides of the board a little bit and dressing your condiments down the center of those cheeses and charcuterie. I know, it's so good.
Oh my God. I just have to say that was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever had. I always try to be like, wait, they have to cut the cheese, but then they're going to be awkward. Where do they go? Where is that going to go? And then like, wait, is it weird to have that there? And that doesn't look right. Anyway, that was,
you are having like these, even just toothpicks to get your cornichons, having your a little spoon to pick up your nuts, all those things, because everybody kind of like look, especially in this day and age, you don't want to be touching all the food.
Yeah.
So if you have those little, and it can be anything, like it doesn't have to be like a fancy spoon, doesn't have to be a fancy knife. It's just something for somebody to stab it with,
exactly.
With, and I like to kind of also, instead of trying to fit all the crackers on the board, do a sideboard with all the crackers there so people can see what they're working with. Because, you have the gluten-free, then you want something that has a little bit of seeds in it. Then you just want a plain cracker or a baguette or something that has, a rye cracker or something that all those variabilities that you want to have, but you want to see them. So you can kind of like pull on those, go in, and hunt for those beautiful items. I also like to, with like a clementine, some people will want to bring their own with them, peel it, eat it along with their plate, but you can also sort of break them up and kind of break them through and sort of dress them through the center of the board. Same with figs, you can slice them up half, quarters, drop them in so people can just take that little bite with them. Same with any raisins, just along the side so people have it right in front of them.
Beautiful. I hope everybody else has learned as much as I have. I feel very more confident going into one of these now. So thank you. And then the manchego and the chorizo is what you're talking about for the white. And next up, we were talking about the sparkling wine.
Mm-hmm.
So sparkling wine, which you've partnered with Raventos y Blanc to make this wine, which again, I love their sparkling wines. Really interesting producers. And the grapes, similar to the white, they're using Macabeo, Zarella, and Parellada. I think, again, French. But tell us a little about them. I love all of what they're doing for the environment and their winemaking. So if you could speak a little bit to their philosophy.
Very similar to their, actually, Con Rafael's they're just 15 minutes apart, these two vineyards. And they have had a relationship. The families have known each other forever. And the wine is made in the traditional Champenois. So it's not a cava. It's made in bottle, which gives it the beautiful carbonation. The bubbles are so close to the champagne bubble. The sugar that they use is a organic cane sugar. Very little, only as much as they need to get that experience in the bottle. And again, just been farming forever as biodynamic farms, organically growing their grapes. And they are pioneers in that, where they are growing their vineyards to continue to, be salvage the land and replenish it.
Yeah. I remember speaking with them once before for something else and talking about how they're not actually kava, even though they're in that designation because of all the different choices they're making to go kind of a different direction, but in that same sustainable, organic, biodynamic method. And the method champenoise, I mean, I can smell the bread.
I know, it's
so
nutty, it has
that nuttiness. Yeah, that baked bread kind of note going through.
Which is very difficult. You can't get that in a kava,
Not often. Yeah, not often. It is rare. This is, they do a wonderful job. So
very effervescent, very refreshing. You don't get that sort of overly sweet champagne feeling in your mouth or your head. It's just super light.
Yeah, it's very, very dry, which I love. And you're mentioning the sugar thing. And so also, we call it dosage, which is the little bit that they add at the very end. Is that what you're talking about, Cameron?
Yes. And so you end up with, it's about 0.5 gram of sugar per pound. So super minimal, and it's organic.
So yeah, we're on that very, very extra brute side of
so
style.
With pecorino.
Salty. Pecorino's got that salty.
Delicious with pecorino, and a sopressata is what we have it with as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I love sparkling wine with salty foods, and I feel like pecorino and sopressata are probably on the saltier side. Because that crisp acidity and that kind of that wonderful balance in the palate.
Do for your charcuterie plate is kind of break up your charcuterie, your meats beforehand, so that they're not all sort of stuck together, giving them a little fold on top of each other so they're easy to grab off as single pieces of meat, so people aren't kind of picking it up and pulling it apart.
Right.
Like I just did.
Yeah. It's okay. You're at home. You can do that. You're bored.
We're obviously, giving some pairing ideas, but there's really no wrong way to drink Avaline.
Yeah.
Whether you're eating a, delicious meal at a 5-star restaurant or doing your laundry. I mean, literally, there's no wrong way to drink it.
Or holidays. I mean, this is, when you have those really complex, or not complex, but flavor smorgasbords of holidays, it's always nice to have a wine that can be very versatile, which these definitely are.
Very versatile.
Trying the pecorino.
So good.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I also love sparkling wine. I'm like a popcorn and sparkling wine person. I just love that pairing.
That's what a great idea.
Oh, it's so, especially you can find truffle popcorn.
There's a little truffle.
Yeah, like truffle salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night movie. Avaline sparkling, your bowl of, your truffle popcorn, and you are all set. Yeah. So next up, we are going to the rosé. So we are going to Provence, the very classic region of great dry rosé. And the grapes are kind of a typical blend, mostly Grenache and Cinsault, but also with Caladoc. And I remember the first time I tasted a rosé, I'm like, what is Caladoc? So Caladoc is a crossing between Grenache and Malbec, which is it was the first time I'd ever had it. But I've now seen it a couple of other times. So also you have some Syrah and Cabernet. So mostly very typical grapes to make a wonderful dry rosé in Provence. Tell us a little bit about your partners there. They're the family, the Negrel family, yes?
Yes, it's a beautiful, again, generational farm, Mas de Cabernet. We actually discovered their wines at a really well-curated small wine shop here in Los Angeles. And we fell in love with their rosé. They do many different styles of rosé, and we tracked them down, and it's a brother and sister who run the winery, and we toured the vineyards, and they created so many beautiful blends for us to choose that from. We sort of gave them our desired taste, if you will, and they just nailed it. It's the perfect French rosé. Super light, dry, a little hint of melon, And they specialize in rosé. So we really sought out, partners that specialize in each taste profile that we wanted. And we just couldn't be happier.
Yeah, you definitely nailed it with them. So yeah, I love it. And the color is so pretty. It's that wonderful pale pink. It's just so inviting.
I think it's rosé.
Yeah, look at that color.
Yeah, color.
Gorgeous.
I kind of want one of those glasses too. Like,
Angela, so we drink rosé year round.
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but
I don't know about you. But
I could be persuaded. Yeah, no, I've definitely done a rosé in the winter.
We paired it with prosciutto and a beautiful creamy goat chev cheese.
Yeah.
And it's very delectable, as I like to say.
Yeah, no, I love that you have that, like you said, the melon. I love it, that rosé, when it has a little bit of that melon that kind of matches with the strawberry and the cranberry and the raspberry and all those red fruits. But then you have that je ne sais quoi, if you will, because you don't always expect like a melon in your rosé, but it's very present. It makes it just a beautiful texture as well.
It is, the texture is something that feel in your mouth is really, it's not heavy at all. Sometimes what I don't like about a rosé sometimes is when it gets a little bit, you want something light. For me, I want a light rosé. I don't love a heavy rosé that falls on my palate, kind of, dead,
So you want that, yes, this has the acidity to make it light and refreshing. It's like a lift up, but it kind of has that texture. And so that yin and yang, you got to have the acidity and the texture balance out, which is so beautiful.
Very smooth, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And what was the meat you said you had? You had the chev and the
prosciutto.
Prosciutto. Oh, beautiful. Yes. Okay, love that. So I've had the rosé and whites quite often this past year, but we are moving on to the red wine, which is very exciting. So it's a blend of classic Southern French grapes, the Grenache and Syrah. And the south of France, to me, it evokes kind of a healthy lifestyle if you're a Mediterranean diet kind of person with, sun, beach, wine, real food, slowing down. And your partner here is a group called Ethnic Drinks. And so I think it's really interesting that you found this partner that kind of has in a way, the same mission as you do of looking to only make wines that are really beneficial to the environment. They're doing lots of different projects around that, right? Yes.
Yeah, they have, they have like a no waste policy. They do everything from take the skin of the grapes and turn them into tennis shoes. No joke.
Completely sustainable.
Completely sustainable.
The leading sort of sustainable winery and vineyard in France. And it's, it is a medium-bodied, delicious, like very, again, very French red wine. Cameron and I have very different palates. I usually love a lighter red. She loves a really heavy, deep red. And we settled right here in the middle on this perfect red blend. And it's delicious. And yeah, we didn't even have this out last time we spoke. So we're so excited to introduce it to your audience.
Yeah. It's funny because you have like the Grenache, which is the light, more fruit forward, less tannin, and then you mix it with a Syrah, which is that heavier, deeper color, more structure, more dark flavors, and then you put them together.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really where we were at with our palates, was that, I needed that little bit of spice in there. I needed to have that little lift at the end that gave me, a little bite, but not too much because that's not her palate, and so to walk that line, to kind of really work on that blend where we felt that it had enough, structure, but also didn't really like hitch in the head at all. Like it just really allowed you to enjoy a really easy drink. It was, we felt really good about that because, our white and our red was the thing that we really had to work to meet in the middle on.
I like that. I mean, you have all blends, which is so cool too. It's kind of like you're sitting there trying to figure out those elements that you love and put them together to
Yeah.
One of the best parts of this process for us has been to, as partners, create these flavor profiles that we felt could reach everybody, because, we're not just drinking this, we're not drinking the same wine as one another. So before Avaline, we had separate bottles.
Yeah.
So to be able to, share a bottle together is so much more practical, but we really wanted to be able to, in a bottle, be able to have, people share it with their friends and not have to show up with 3 bottles of wine, but to bring a bottle to the party that everybody was going to enjoy, and for it to be something that, everybody, no one was sort of felt left out on it.
Yeah.
Right.
It is
Right.
a perfect bottle of wine to bring over to, you're going to dinner at someone's home. It's delicious. Obviously it looks beautiful on the table. We chose a clear bottle, just to kind of represent the transparency in Avaline. And again, 0 sugar per glass, about 110 calories. So you really can't go wrong.
And we really love that, again, the practicality in these bottles, not just the transparency on the front of the bottle, but we love that we created it in a screw cap, because we didn't want you to feel like you have, you open a bottle of wine, you feel like you could try to get that cork back in, how long is it going to last?
Yeah.
And being able to fill it back up, put it back in the fridge and enjoy it a day or 2 later really made a difference for us as the way that we, enjoy wine. We're not, for ourselves on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah. No, I always also promoted that to moms, being like, when you're holding a kid on one hip, it's much easier to open a screw cap. Right.
Great point.
Yeah. So what about the pairing you have on the board for this one?
Sure.
So we have a Gouda and salami.
Here's the salami, here's the Gouda.
What's so fun about the Gouda is the sharpness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Gouda with the red, this red just cuts that sharpness and butters it up, and it's so delicious.
Yeah.
Perfect. And because you blend that with the Grenache and Syrah, the wine is not too heavy or with too much structure that doesn't pair well with a few cheeses. So I bet the Gouda is perfect.
I could eat it with all of these. I mean,
yeah, it'd be fine.
As I'm tasting this with this particular Gouda, the sharpness of the Gouda just like gets so bright.
Yeah.
Saltiness of it just gets so bright in my mouth when I take a sip of the red. It's so much fun.
Oh no, I almost made my own charcuterie board, and I kind of wish I did, because
I know.
I'm not gonna just reach through there and like.
Along with us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So so these are all delicious. It's really exciting that the first time we spoke there were 2 wines, now there are 4. It's been a year since you launched Avaline, and years before that as you were planning and progressing through it. But what are some key takeaways that you've either learned or realized this past year in your journey? Something that just kind of sticks out. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah,
but
it's been when we started creating Avaline, and really when we started learning about the winemaking process and asking the questions about what was going in the bottle, that was 3.5 years ago. And we would go to our favorite wine stores, websites, restaurants, and we would look for organic wine or naturally made wine, something that was a cleaner alternative. And it was really, really hard to find. And so people would say, we don't know which wines are organic. It's not written on the bottle. Or they would sort of look at us like we're crazy, like, well, it's just grapes, But now it's been so wonderful to see just the movement and the adoption of this kind of wine, that we were able to bring to market. And now we see, retailers like yourself, with dedicated sections to organically grown grapes and these winemaking practices, and the consumer has just responded in such a wonderful way. I mean, the most exciting thing is the feedback that we get from our customers and our audience on Instagram. And so it's just really exciting to kind of see that take off, because that's ultimately our goal, is really just champion more transparency in the industry.
Yeah, it really was an eye-opening for the two of us when we heard, when we sort of dove into the winemaking process and learned about what could be in the bottle. And when we took this on and said, we want to educate, the drinker to, what is happening, what could be in the bottle. I think the biggest thing was people were going, what are you talking about? I had no idea. We thought it was just grapes. Most people think it's just grape. They don't even consider that it could be, that there could be any other ingredients added to it, not just wine, or even just the process, just like, the tools that can be used to make wine. And even for vegans, the fact that our wines are vegan, that was something that we were just totally floored by, to learn that wine isn't necessarily vegan. So we learning that was about being able to give that information over to the consumer, who we knew that mattered to as much as it did to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's, and the thing is, because wine is so ancient, if you will, and you were in Europe where these practices are normal, but they don't feel the need to put it on the bottle.
Yeah.
And so, there's so many wines out there that actually are similar, but they're not, but, at certain price points, you don't get a lot of that. And the ones that are on the shelves that people buy the most of aren't like this. And so I think it is important. And I hope that will also somehow move to having more regulation about, if you put certain additives in, you have to put them on the bottle. So,
and also it's about the consumer, right? This goes back to the consumer. What do you want to be consuming, and how do you ask that from your the wines, maker that you want to drink from, or that you have the opportunity to search it out, to be able to know. It's really an invitation that we're giving to the wine industry to join us in that transparency, because we're not alone in this. Like, we're not the only ones making wine this way. There could be 400 bottles on the shelf. 200 of them could be exactly the same as ours, but they're just not labeling it. They're not giving that information. Not even on the websites, because we would go to the website and look, and there'd be no information. But there's a long history of organic wine being sort of shoved off to the side, and another space where people didn't go, and your wine wasn't, no one knew you existed. So of course everybody wants to compete in the same race, but this is really about the consumer and what they want, and being able to provide it to them very, forward facing on the label. We're right here.
going to, we always call it the giant wine wall when you go to a store, and it's just overwhelming in so many different ways, but also in not always knowing what's in the bottle. So
the price point was very important to us as well.
Yeah, and that also. I mean, if you're buying certain wines at a certain price point, most likely they're going to be not having all those additives, but being able to have wonderful wines that are clean and fresh and delicious and refreshing and food friendly, clearly very food friendly, is really important, I think, for consumers. And I'm so glad you've had such a great response from everyone drinking them. We're thrilled to be carrying them. And one thing that a lot of people asked on those questions was if you have a favorite Avaline wine, which I'm guessing possibly. Oh, yeah, there you go. She's got one.
Yeah, it's like favorite.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like your favorite. Okay, so that's what I thought. But for that thing, what are you drinking a lot of right now?
Right now, everybody should be buying this red. Okay. It is a perfect everyday fall drinking wine, a great gift, a great take it to a dinner party, or just keep it at home and enjoy it all on your own.
Yeah, I feel like, and then we'll move to the sparkling for winter celebrations, and then we'll go into the rosé for spring, and then we'll have the white for summer, and you can just make this a whole seasonal little rotation. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Or all year round. Anyway, ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to share the Avaline story, taste through the wines with us. I feel very fully educated on making my next charcuterie board. So hopefully everybody else will as well. And for everyone watching, these wines are still available on Wine.com. As I mentioned, you can get them as a set, great as a gift, or you can buy them one at a time. But definitely worth trying. So appreciate everyone joining in, and ladies, it was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your support as well from the very beginning. We really appreciate y'all.
Cheers.
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 It's both a science and a form of high art. It's made from the combination of grapes, sunlight, rain, soil, and time. It's raised up in the moments that matter. It's wine. And we are Wine.com. We have the largest wine selection in the world, online sommeliers with free advice, and now our powerful new app puts the entire world of wine in your hands. Wine.com. Seriously passionate about wine. Download our free app today.